What's up, everybody on YouTube? Welcome to Bros Talking Soccer podcast recording, episode 56. I am here just with my brother Matt this week. Christian has had some scheduling conflicts. He's seeing Star Wars and has been playing soccer. So not going to be him on this week. It's just going to be us two. Matt, say hello to everybody. There you go. That's Matt, everyone. And yeah, I think we're just going to jump right into things. I got on my France scarf because Ligue 1 in France is playing. All 20 clubs are playing today. So I figured I'd rep them. And I got on my Santa hat for Christmas coming up. So that's me, Matt, City fan. He's got on his City hat over there. Yeah. All right, let's go. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 56 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. As always, my name is Dave Knittel, and I'm here with just my brother Matt this week to discuss stories from around the soccer world. Matt, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Dave. We're doing it early in the morning now. Feeling a little refreshed. I'm excited to do the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm good to go. I feel more motivated. I feel like I have more energy, and so yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this podcast. How's Fortnite going?
It's great. Yeah, this game's amazing. Yeah, and it's free too.
Yeah, Matt and I have been playing this game on Xbox. That's like shooter type of cartoonish kind of shooter game. Tons of fun. Highly recommend it. We may play a little bit right after this recording.
It's like the Hunger Games, but Dave has never seen the Hunger Games.
Yeah, so I don't.
He doesn't get the reference, but for all the fans listening, it's like the Hunger Games.
Okay, so there you go. If the Hunger Games is enjoyable for you, you'll like the game. All right. Since Christian's not here, I actually have a trivia question for you, Matt. And so in 1888 in Manchester, 12 clubs formed the Football League in England, which became the first division in English soccer. How many of those 12 clubs are currently in the Premier League, which is the top division in English soccer this week? So, listeners, that's our trivia question. Think on that. I will reveal the answer at the end, right after Matt gives his guess. Before we get into our topics here, just want to give a quick plug for Fan Futsal. So I am the founder of Fan Futsal, which is a simplified fantasy soccer website. We have you pick 5 clubs instead of 8 to 11 individual players for your fantasy teams. We simplify fantasy scoring to make it really easy and simple to play fantasy soccer. If you listen to this podcast, you're a soccer fan, and if you've ever been intimidated or curious about playing fantasy soccer but haven't jumped in, our game would be perfect for you. And even if you play fantasy soccer right now, still a ton of fun. So our game is for hardcore soccer fans, casual soccer fans, and everyone. Definitely go check that out at fanfutsal, FANFUTSAL.com. With that, let's get into our topics this week. So our first topic in segment 1 is Christian Pulisic won the U.S. men's national team player of the year this past week. Youngest player ever to win that award. Matt, what does that say about Pulisic?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about him so much. I think he's on his way, if he keeps like this progress up, to being, the best American soccer player ever. Just in terms of talent and what I've seen in like 1 year or at one time, I think he's the best at one time that we've ever had. Well, at least since I've been watching the U.S. men's national team. And he's still, he just turned 18. Was it 2 months ago?
19.
Just turned 19. Yeah, that's what I mean. He turned 19, 2 months ago? So, I mean, the sky's the limit for him, so I'm just excited.
Me too. And right after that award came out, I think The Guardian gave their top 100 soccer players in world soccer, and he was on that list. He was number 77, but that's all players. That's not just teenagers. He's number 77 ranked world, player in the number 77 ranked player in the world right now. And so, he's just incredible. I don't think you could really have given this award to anyone else after the year he's had. He basically carried the U.S. men's national team. He's been doing incredible for Dortmund. Loved his goal this past weekend to win it for Dortmund. For anybody who didn't see it, he hit a nice run in behind, juggled it over the keeper, and just basically took the goal right off Aubameyang's foot and ended up knocking him over. And so it was just a cool moment for him. So, like Matt said, the sky is really the limit with this kid. And, he's on his 3rd manager at this point and still just crushing it. So, I don't know where the future is taking him, but I'm extremely excited about it. Anything else to add, Matt, about Pulisic?
No.
All right, let's keep this thing rolling, but switch over to England. And I know we were heavy Man City last week, but we're talking about them again because they're just incredible. Now, Specifically, let's talk about Pep Guardiola, and he is now the manager with the longest ever win streaks in their history in all three, I should say, La Liga, Bundesliga, and now the Premier League. Matt, I know you were a Pep Guardiola skeptic before. What are your thoughts on him right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has the ability to draw the best players in the world, and I think he did take over maybe the best team ever at Barcelona when he set that record. There's going to be arguments for that team actually being the best team ever. The German team, I mean, there's no doubt that he is among the best managers ever with his performances, but he has inherited some incredible teams. And the Bayern team that he took over in Germany kind of just steamrolled everybody in the league for the 3 years he was there. Was there 3 or 4 years?
3 years.
3 years, yeah. And they won all 3 years. He inherited some great teams, but I think that him setting the records and, how long these leagues have been around and him having the win record in all 3 leagues, it's got to say something. So, yeah, I think he's just been incredible. And for City, I mean, it's been incredible this year. Yeah, it's just fun to watch this year. And, even though we've had injuries, we're still playing extremely well. And I think Pep's done a great job getting the depth and, figuring out the right people to get put in his system. And I think it's been great for the fans.
Yeah, and so I was somewhat of a Pep skeptic up until probably this season, just from the standpoint of, like you said, he's inherited a ton of really talented squads. But for me, I think case in point is Raheem Sterling this season. You can just see how vastly improved he is under Pep Guardiola's guidance. And, he's done that with other players, whether it was Joshua Kimmich at Bayern Munich. And the other thing is, everybody seems to be on the same page in Pep's system. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it. And for me, that's the most impressive thing, that getting everybody moving in the same direction and also just improving players that already were incredibly talented. So I just think it speaks volumes about Pep Guardiola. And I think at this point, there's no doubt that he's the best manager in the world. And it's just been incredible from him. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
So, I know it's real early, but in the managers all time, where do you? I don't know all the managers from before the Premier League era, so I can't say anything about the 70s, 80s, and before. But in recent memory, what other managers could you compare to him other than maybe Sir Alex?
Yeah, Sir Alex is the one that jumps to mind, just because of the longevity of Pep's dominance at this point. I mean, across leagues and across, a decade at this point. I mean, he's been the dominant manager wherever he's gone. And so it's really tough to compare him. I mean, I've read the Inverting the Pyramid by Jonathan Wilson, which basically, gives a background on soccer tactics and all the managers and everything like that. Bela Gutmann, I think was his name. I'm trying to recall it off the top of my head, but he was somebody who went to a bunch of different leagues. He actually was more like Jose Mourinho in a very defensive sort of style, very pragmatic. But he's somebody who went and tested it out with a bunch of, his system in a bunch of different leagues, won titles and everything like that. So he's somebody who jumps to mind from history. And then I think Herbert Chapman, Arsenal's manager, who was the inventor of the a formation and basically revolutionized the way soccer was played. And, some of those managers from back in the day. But to sort of revolutionize and develop soccer after it's been around for over 100 years, when so many people have been thinking about the game, to come up with something incredibly unique and different, which is what Pep Guardiola has done, I think just speaks volume to his talent and his work ethic and all of that. So, he's incredible. And I think he's definitely the best manager since Sir Alex left. And I could even say that it's incredibly difficult to stay at one club and keep everybody motivated and win trophies the way Sir Alex did. But it's also incredibly impressive to change clubs the way Pep has done and developed a culture and won trophies and left the club in a better spot than they were when he took over. So I think they're different styles too in that. Equally impressive though.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's stick in England, but talk about Chelsea manager Antonio Conte, who recently came out and said English clubs need to do, at least the top English clubs need to do everything in their power to not let Man City sign Virgil van Dijk in the winter transfer window. So, Matt, you're a City fan. What do you make of another manager coming out and saying this? And what is your take on if City should sign Van Dijk? Do you think they will? What are your thoughts?
Well, Van Dijk has just been the rumors about Van Dijk have been going on for 2 or 3 years now. Of he's going to Liverpool, he's going to Man City, he's going to United. So I'm not entirely sure any of the clubs are going to get him in the January transfer window again. But watching him play, I've seen Southampton play a couple times this year, and just his distribution and ability, kind of like what we saw from Ederson. Like I saw when he played City, he hit like 70, 80-yard bombs on a dime. And I think that's what's like, if he's on City and like how quickly they can counterattack and like just hit Sterling or Sané behind, like Van Dijk out of the back, like that would be incredible. And I think that's like so dangerous for City. And he can defend. He's huge and he can defend really well. He can move. Company, I mean, he's great, but he's always injured. I think John Stones has been incredible this year, but he's also injured right now. Otamendi, we have our agreements about him, but like I think he's been incredible this year. I think he's very good with the ball at his feet. But yeah, I mean, Mangala, I think he's good at defense, but he's not good with the ball at his feet. So I think he might be a little mix between Mangala and Otamendi. I think it would be good for City, but I just don't see us getting him. And I think it's weird that Conte even like made the comment, like, if Chelsea has all the money in the world as well, why don't you go after him then?
Yeah, and so I think I don't know the context of his comment, but I mean I can understand why he's saying it because City is incredibly dominant, and I would say probably their one weak area is center back depth. And like you said, we disagree on Otamendi, but I think he's mistake prone and he doesn't get exposed because their midfield and forwards press so effectively that he's not in a position to make those mistakes. And in every match he's good for one or two just sort of mistakes. And if they sign Van Dijk and he slots in there, and then even if Otamendi continues to play, but the pressure's not on him to be the dominant center back, and if he can just be a ball winner and distributor, I think he's fine with that. And so yeah, I can understand why Conte said this, because I think it's true that English clubs need to do everything that they can not to say it. But it is a little odd because a lot of times managers play the political route and say, I don't want him to comment on another team's player. I shouldn't say anything. So I found it interesting that he did come out and say it, and I think he's right in saying that.
Did you, since we're talking about managers, did you see the whole Pep Guardiola, Alexis Sanchez thing?
No.
They asked if he was going to sign Alexis Sanchez, and Pep just managers will say like, oh, we have like a plan, or like they'll have like some excuse like, oh, we have like set targets, we have to like go over with the club. Pep just like was at a complete loss of words and just didn't know what to say and just started like laughing and walked away from the interview. And I thought that was just the strangest thing. Like, you couldn't even make up a lie. He was just like, we'll see. And then just kind of laughed and walked off. So I just thought that.
He's a quirky guy, Pep. So, yeah, I think I did see that, or at least I read about it. And so, yeah, I mean, I think Alexis Sanchez is going to Man City if they still want him. It's just a matter of if it's going to be January or in the summertime. I know Alexis wants to go there because he's just been pouting for Arsenal. So I think it's just a matter of when it's going to happen.
No, I agree.
All right. So with that is the end of our first segment here. You're going to hear a little bit of music in your ears, and we'll be right back with you just after this. Stay with us. All right. Coolio. It's just fun, Matt. It's just fun. Nice. All right. Yeah, I think we're good to just keep rolling along. I don't know if we're gonna have any outtakes or funny shit from this. Yeah. All right, not a bad thing. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to our second segment here. Jumping into things, let's talk about Lazio fans. And so over the weekend, I think it was this weekend or it may have been last weekend. They suffered a loss. I can't even remember who it was to, but it was a fairly substantial loss. And there was some disagreements with the referee and some controversy there. And so Lazio ownership has threatened to remove them from Serie A for the rest of the season over this, because Italians are very level-headed with things a lot of times. And then their fans did some online digging into the referee. And so the guy's name, I think his last name was Giacomelli, I think is how you pronounce it. But he had a pseudonym online on Facebook that was Jack O'Malley, which was like an English sounding name, but it was a picture of the referee and had a lot of information about him. They started flooding his Facebook page with just all kinds of, what you could imagine. Then they found out that this guy used to own a cafe somewhere in Italy. He has since sold it, but they decided to leave 1-star terrible reviews on this cafe for this referee who doesn't even own the cafe anymore. These poor new owners are getting just crushed on TripAdvisor. Matt, what's your take on Lazio fans taking this form of revenge on the referee?
Yeah, so when I saw this on Twitter, I guess it was before anybody realized that he didn't own it still. So like when I saw it, I thought it was hilarious. They're like, oh, they gave this ref like horrible reviews, and like it's like, I mean, this is this guy's life, but like it's still an incredible story of just like fans being so passionate about the game. They find where the ref owns a cafe and gives horrible reviews, but it just sucks for the new owners. Like I guess I feel bad now that they have to, when people take those reviews serious. Like people like really will like not go to places because of the reviews. So I think So I think it's like just like horrible for the new owners, but an incredible soccer story.
Yeah,
that the still owned it.
Yeah, you gotta love fans and their passions and the way that they can sometimes demonstrate it. Sometimes it goes too far, like you said. I mean, this is this guy's life, but I think it may, I want to look on the positive side. It may have been good natured, or it may have been, a funny thing to do. It's not like, at least as far as I know, they weren't threatening him or weren't, what, actually, Lazio fans have a pretty bad reputation. So they probably were threatening him. So I don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt. This may have been probably too far, but still a funny type of soccer story. And hopefully those new owners can get it clarified, or, I don't know what you have to do with TripAdvisor to change, or maybe they have to change the name of the place or whatnot. So hopefully they can get things sorted out. But we wish them well. And again, just a funny story from the soccer world. Anything else on that, Matt?
Nah.
Yeah. All right, let's stick in Italy, but let's go over to AC Milan and talk about, again, fans behaving poorly. So this past weekend, AC Milan lost to Hellas Verona. AC Milan's just in a world of trouble right now. It looks like they're going to be in financial fair play because of their ownership group is falling apart, and they keep losing. They're down in 8th. They've spent a ton of money, and it's just not translating to success on the field. And AC Milan fans took it out on their young goalkeeper, Donnarumma, with a banner that basically said something along the lines of, we took on your parasite brother for you. We don't want you at this club anymore. Like, get out. And it was really, really harsh. They held it up. It's not like it was just said by one person. They made a tifo and displayed this banner in the stadium before the match. And after the match, Donnarumma was in tears. Bonucci was consoling him and trying to get him up. Matt, what's your take on AC Milan's treating their own players this way? AC Milan fans, I'm sorry, treating their players this way.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, I feel like most of the stories about fans in Italy are just not good stories. I think they probably take it a little bit too far. And yeah, I mean, I don't get Donnarumma. Did he say he wanted to leave, or what was the deal with that?
I think Mino Raiola recently came out and said, with all of the issues, Mino Raiola is Donnarumma's agent, for anyone who doesn't know. He came out and said that with all the issues going on at AC Milan, I think they can void the contract, Donnarumma's contract, at the end of this season, and they may be looking to sell him in January. And I think he's trying to angle for a move, and AC Milan fans took it out on Donnarumma.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, when your best player leaves and somebody who, I guess, for a club like AC Milan, who I'm sure the fans are used to being, the premier European club, like up there is one of the best European clubs, and just seeing kind of the demise over the last 5 years.
5 to 10.
I mean, they still had Ibra and Thiago Silva a couple of years ago. I said,
But they weren't winning, right?
yeah, but I mean, they still had talent. Like right now, they don't have like the star players even, other than Donnarumma. And he's like the young guy, and seeing like maybe hearing that he wants to leave. I mean, I'm sure that's devastating, but I mean, like making the guy cry and leave the field. I mean, Donnarumma has to be, I guess, a little bit stronger, but there's no reason to be calling his parasite brother and coming at his family. I would understand like maybe saying something about the contract, saying, "Oh, we pay you $6 million a year," but I guess the brother part probably just put it over the top.
Yeah, and I mean, this kid's, what is he, 18, 19, and he's been at the club for something like 10 years. Like he's come up through their system. He felt a level of loyalty, and that's why I wish Christian was on this week, because he's always talking about players need to have loyalty. But why would a player show loyalty when he's going to be treated this way by whether it's fans or by the front office? And the front office hasn't been terrible to him, but the fans are treating him this way. I mean, you can understand why players want to leave places or why they have to look out for themselves, because it's, what have you done for me lately just in this world? And it's unfortunate, and I just think it's so sad because it's a 19-year-old kid. It's like, I'm sure these people writing these banners are adults and are, I don't know what could possibly be going through their head. Like, what are they trying to accomplish by doing this? Do they think he's going to play better? Do they just want him benched? Like, I don't know what are they trying to accomplish by even having this banner?
Yeah, I agree. Like I don't see what their benefit is. And now if he leaves, now they're out of goalie.
Yeah, I'm sure they have backups, but they're out a very talented keeper.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like they're losing their best player.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. Again, maybe it's just a lack of foresight, maybe just caught up in passions and emotions, which stereotypically may be an Italian thing to do, and so maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I can't for the life of me understand what they were trying to accomplish by doing this.
Yeah.
All right. So with that is the end of our second segment here, and you're going to hear a little bit more music, and then we're going to be right back with our third segment. Talk to you soon. All right. Cool. Hopefully I'm not being too stereotypical of Italians.
Yeah. They'll get over it. They'll probably hang the banners, fan futsal.
Yeah.
Fan futsal.
Yep, probably. All right. Let's go. Third segment here. Keep this thing rolling right along. Welcome back, everyone, to our third and final segment. Kicking things right off, let's talk about Antoine Griezmann, who I don't know. Speaking, I know we just talked about AC Milan fans and not really understanding what was going through their head. I don't know what could have possibly been going through Antoine Griezmann's head this past weekend. So he attended a 80s party. For some reason, there was an 80s party going on, and he decided that he wanted to dress up like a Harlem Globetrotter, and he painted his entire body black, basically to appear as African ancestry. I don't know. And he posted a picture on social media about it and said, "Don't I look great?" or something like that. Obviously, everybody backlashed on him and called him a racist. And, he quickly deleted the picture after he told everybody to calm down. It wasn't a big deal. Matt, what was your take on Griezmann doing this and posting it on social media?
So my take is probably a little bit different because I can't speak for any African or African American people, but if somebody went whiteface, like I don't think I would care. But like I see everyone's entitlement to care, and I see like the issue with it. But I'm just saying, for me personally, I would never care about this, and I don't think he meant it in an offensive way, and I also don't know French culture all that well. And if this is not a normal thing, but like not just a frowned upon thing. But I know in America, like just with our whole, culture movement right now, and that would be totally unacceptable.
Yeah, and there is an element of, so in Europe apparently this hasn't been a big story, and I mean to your point about whiteface, it's a completely different
Exactly. Like,
issue.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just for me, like personally, because I
Yeah,
haven't
you can't
experienced.
relate.
Yeah, I haven't experienced similar things. I can't speak for anyone else either, but I'm just saying for me personally.
Got it. Yeah, and for the backstory here, I think blackface is something, at least in America. I can't speak for how it was overseas, but in America, it was used in the early 1900s or so to kind of disparage African Americans and look down on them and make fun of them and put them, make them feel like a lower part of society. So it has really negative connotations here, and so maybe that's why the story is a lot bigger over in America, whereas overseas it doesn't seem to be as big of a deal. Granted, we're not overseas and don't know the press and the culture and all of that. But for me, being an American, knowing what I know about people that have tried this in the past and that have done this, I'm just shocked that nobody, like, he's a professional athlete. I'm sure he has an entourage, or he has business people, or he has people that at least should be monitoring his social account. Like, somebody should have just had the foresight to be like, hey, this isn't going to be a good look, like, across the world. And with soccer being a global sport, I think somebody should have known it. And it was just, I don't think he had terrible intentions, but still, it was just a really bad look. And especially being an American, and knowing all the backstory about blackface in this country and how terrible it was not a good look for him. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add?
No.
All right. Let's talk about the last thing, at least major topic I wanted to mention. And in MLS, there is a wave kind of happening with clubs, where you have clubs that are more willing to spend money, like the Atlanta Uniteds, Toronto FCs, Seattle Sounders. They're willing to shell out large transfer fees and then tens of millions and pay players, millions upon millions of dollars. And then you have clubs on the lower end, unfortunately, like the Philadelphia Union, the club we support, and some of the smaller market teams that don't spend as much. And so MLS has always prided itself and built itself like the NFL, which is built on parity. Every couple of years, teams can go through cycles and be pretty competitive over a short time window. Seems like MLS is transitioning more towards baseball and European models of soccer, which is more stratified. You have the big spenders that acquire more talent, therefore have more depth and are better. Matt, what's your take on, parity being over in MLS? Do you think that it is? And also, do you think it's a good or bad thing for the league to transition to, having dominant clubs or clubs that are competitive, every year? What's your thoughts?
I don't think it's necessarily over. I mean, like, what was it, was it like 2 years ago, the Dynamo were they like the best team in the MLS? Did they win? Or
No, it wasn't the Dynamo. Because it's been Portland, Seattle, and Toronto the last few years. But the Dynamo, who are a smaller spending team, were in the conference finals this year.
Okay, yeah. The Dynamo, I mean, like, they're not the biggest team, and they're not getting, the premier elderly, what's it called, European players coming over. Those big names coming over. But, like, it's for the Union, we're in our, how many years have we been around?
I think 6, 7, something like that. It was 2010 was our first year. Twice.
Made the playoffs once?
Twice.
Yeah, I mean, and when was our last one?
Last year.
You made the playoffs last year?
Yes. Not this past season, but the season before.
Okay. So it's just been like, and we've never won a playoff game, right?
Nope.
Yeah, so...
Are you just, like, twisting the knife? Is there a point here?
I'm just trying to rub it in. But I'm just saying, like, for me, as like trying to follow the Union and them just not really having a chance in the MLS. I mean, we've gotten like guys, but like Bedoya, who's a U.S. men's national team player, Adu, who's a men's national team player, Adu. We had that go around with Freddie Adu, where we have another, like, we got like some good names, but. So, like, I don't understand what's going on in Philadelphia that we can't compete, but we are getting players that, have played at a higher level. And I don't think – and, like, Andre Blake. Like, we have Andre Blake now who's going to – maybe the best goalie in the MLS, could be going any league around the world. I don't understand, maybe not, like, just why we aren't performing, but I don't think it's necessarily due to like the other teams are better.
No, and that's a really good point. And, I think the parity argument being over is overblown. I think that you may have teams spending, more money, but there are still mechanisms in place to keep all rosters competitive if you spend smartly. And so there are tons of players out there that are incredibly talented that will come to teams as either a stepping stone, or maybe they're talented, they didn't make it in Europe, and they're, again, talented, but for whatever reason they didn't make it and are willing to come back here with tons of talent and, make $500,000 to $1 million and live in a great country with a stable paycheck and all of that. And so it's just a matter of the union specifically. So we can talk about the union specifically, but they haven't spent the money wisely, and they've been unfortunate, whether it's Edu, who hasn't played a minute over the last 2 years, or over the past seasons, Ilsinho and Roland Alberg were making hundreds of thousands of dollars when really they are $200,000 players for their contributions. Like the union haven't spent smartly. They haven't had the youth players yet, because their academy is still young, to supplement that. But I mean, you look at Columbus. So your point about, Columbus and Houston were the other two conference semifinal teams this past season, and they've built talented rosters without spending a ton of money. So I think you can compete in MLS, but you just have a lot less wiggle room on your misses, whereas Atlanta and Toronto can miss big and not have it affect their team as much. The smaller teams can't miss as big. And so I don't think it's completely over, but it's definitely getting more, the margins are getting finer for being successful and unsuccessful.
So since we're talking about the union, how do you fault the managers, or just like in general, like where does this blame come with, like how you spend? Is it the manager? Is it the front office? Like, is Curtin to be blamed, or?
I don't know if it's specifically Curtin. So Curtin, for me, the frustrations with Curtin are the fact that he's rigid tactically to his formation, and he doesn't change up tactics, whether it's formation or the style of play, regardless of what's happening in the match. He may change up personnel, but very infrequently does he change the formation. At the end of the year, he finally flipped the formation a little bit, and they were a little bit more successful, going from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-1-3-2. No, I said that wrong. 4-2-3-1 to a 4-1-4-1, basically, is what it ended up becoming, or 4-3-3, whatever. Anyways, so I don't fault Curtin as much, especially for the player personnel. I fault the front office and the lack of commitment to scouting. Like the union scouting is incredibly bare. The front office apparently has said that they will spend money, but it hasn't really been proven, and they're not going to spend. I don't even know if they would spend $5 million on a transfer fee. Whereas Atlanta right now is rumored to be signing an 18-year-old Argentinian for $12 million. And this is for an up-and-coming player that has potential resale value. So for me, I think the blame is more on the front office, both from a staffing perspective and a commitment to filling out the front office and having the scouts to evaluate, and also then the commitment to actually spend the money. So that's where the union, from my perspective, fall down. But it doesn't take a lot to change things around in MLS. And I think I'm encouraged by, the fact that this new money is coming into the league next year. We talked about on a previous podcast with TAM. So I'm hopeful about that. And I'm hopeful that, their academy, which is still fairly young, will start churning out some players. So that's my thoughts on the union.
Right.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Matt? I know you don't follow him quite as closely.
Yeah. So just like from my loose, following of the union, like every time I've watched, I just haven't really seen like the style of play ever be there. So like that's where I fault Curtin. Like I don't see like a specific style of play that like works. And I feel like it's just like going around, and we don't really have an identity.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah, that's my only take on how the union play.
Yeah,
and where I think we can be faulted.
All right. Yeah, no, that's fair. And there's definitely not a set style of play beyond the formation. And I mean, they have a way to play in that they kind of had inverted wingers, and they kind of try to pass through the midfield, and that's kind of their style of play. They don't send in a lot of crosses, and they kind of play through the middle. And as far as pressing or whatnot, defensively, yeah, I couldn't really tell you their style. It seems to vary from match to match. So yeah, I think that would be better. But the conversation is sort of morphed into Union. But yeah, I don't think parity's over in MLS. I just think the margins are getting finer, and so clubs still can compete if they don't spend, but it's just they can't make mistakes.
Yeah, like I don't think like with Toronto, it's not like they're gonna have like this long-lasting success. Like once Giovinco and Bradley and Altidore are done, it's like, do they have like a system in place like where they're like guaranteed another star, or do they have a great youth system? Like I feel like they don't necessarily, like it's not like they're gonna be a dynasty.
Well, I think they are putting things in place and hoping to be a dynasty. So they have a pretty talented academy. They have a really talented academy, and they just upgraded their stadium. I think their stadium holds somewhere to 30 to 40,000 now. It's a fantastic looking. Ownership has shown a commitment to building the infrastructure, and so if they're doing that, they've shown a commitment to spend the money. So when Giovinco moves on and Bradley and Altidore, there's no reason to think that they won't spend the money again on similar players like them. So, but yeah, but they need to hit on them, right? So I think they hit home runs with all three of those players. And so if they spend the money and they don't hit, whether it's like they signed Jermaine Defoe in the past, and he's a very talented player, but he didn't fit with their organization, and they ultimately moved him on after 1 year. The Union don't have that luxury. They're stuck with Simpson. I can't remember his first name, who's a fourth division English soccer player who did very well over there, came over here. They're giving him $500,000 a year, but they signed him to a 2-year contract, and they're not buying him out after 1 year. And they're just sort of stuck with him for another year. The Union handicapped themselves by doing things like that, whereas a team like Toronto or Seattle would just buy that player out and move on, cut ties with them. So, all right, there's my rant over from that perspective. Matt, anything else you wanted to mention on this topic? Any other topics?
No.
All right, I wanted to mention 3 things. First, congratulations to Kaká. Fantastic career. He announced his retirement, last Ballon d'Or winner before Messi and Ronaldo. So congrats to him. Injuries sort of slowed him down. Would have been fantastic to see him, if he didn't have those few injuries. Matt, did you also see that video that I sent about the penalty from Brazil?
No.
We will link to it in the show notes, people. I don't know what is happening. It is utter chaos, but it looks like a real match. I don't know, but it's from, I believe, a slum favela in Brazil. And there's a penalty called, I guess it's a very dramatic penalty. And all the fans end up crowding the field. They're standing around when the player takes the penalty. He scores. Everybody goes crazy. And there's like a dude with a machine gun just starts firing it into the air. It's just utter sort of chaos. I think it's a real video. I don't know or not, but we'll link to it in the show notes. It's just absolutely insane. So definitely got to go check that out. Last thing I wanted to mention, I know we talked about AC Milan and their issues. Did you see Gattuso tried to resign after this weekend?
No, Matt? I did not see that.
Yeah, he said the players weren't upset enough after losing, so he tried to resign. And the owner or somebody like a general manager basically talked him out of it. But Gattuso is behaving exactly the way that I would expect him to behave during this whole situation. So Milan is going to be, it may be a train wreck, but it's going to be an interesting ride to watch because Gattuso is going to make that team. There's going to be some stories and some drama coming out of that. So follow that along. All right, to recap our trivia question, I said in 1888 in Manchester, 12 clubs formed the Football League, which was the top division in England. It was the first time that they sort of formed a league that basically sat on top of the English Premier League pyramid. And, it's grown and morphed since then, but now the current Premier League is on top of the English Premier League, is on top of the English pyramid. There we go, I can speak. How many of those 12 original teams that were in the first division are in the Premier League today, Matt?
All right, so I know I was just looking this up because I was saying when the league was first formed, and I didn't read any of the clubs past Aston Villa because they were the first one. But I'm pretty sure most of them are still. I'm gonna go with 8.
Eight of the original ones are in the Premier League right now.
Sure, 8.
Okay. That was a little high. It's 4, which I thought was incredible because I mean, you think of the 12 teams that started, 12 clubs that started, there are hundreds of teams in England these days. And, I think there's 92 just professional teams. And then beyond that, some of those clubs have slipped out of professional into the amateur. So to have 4 teams from the original 12 still be in the first division, I thought was incredible. You want to guess who those 4 were? Any shots?
United?
Nope.
Did Manchester United wasn't the club?
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, so Liverpool?
No. It's the other Liverpool team.
Everton?
Yep.
Newcastle?
No. All right, I'll just say it. Burnley, Everton, Stoke City, and West Brom. Those are the 4 teams that founded the Football League. So with that, listeners, hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you got it right. And little teaser there, because I'm actually going to be making a video in the not too distant future about kind of English soccer, or just soccer in general, sort of origins and how the sport became what it is today. So look out for that on our YouTube channel, which anybody watching on YouTube, because this video is on YouTube, it'll be on that channel. If you're not, subscribe, and you can look out for that in the coming weeks. With that, that is the end of the podcast. If you want to check out any of the stories we talked about on this week's podcast, they'll be in the show notes. We'll also tweet them out from our Bros Talking Soccer Twitter handle, which is @BTSoccerPod. If you want to get in contact with us, our email is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. Everything was brought to you by Fan Futsal. Definitely go check that out. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. All right, Matt, thank you for being here and talking to me this week. Listeners, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next week. See you, everyone. Have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I'll talk to you before the new year, but happy holidays and Merry Christmas. See you, everyone. All right, Matt, with that brings us to the end of the podcast. Nice fidget spinner. All right, that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
All right. I can play Fortnite for a little bit.
All right, sweet.
All right, we'll do that.
Yeah. That was good.
All right. Deuces.